Okay. Okay. Here we go. Hello, everyone. I'm John Higgins, contributing writer to Film and TV Now, and a warm welcome to this interview special with Ayvianna Snow, who's currently starring in the horror film Baron Rye and the House on the Cliff, which is in cinemas now. She's also landed a leading role in recent 21 feature film Black Lace, which was screened at the Women Horror Film Festival in Atlanta and won the Best Cinematography Award. It was also selected for Cine Access, where it was a semi-final. Upcoming films include Lola, a sci-fi film between the relationship between two sisters, starring along Emma Appleton. Hollow, an indie horror feature written by the Doctor Who writer Keith Temple. And more recently, she can be seen in the indie horror release, The Lockdown Hauntings. She trained at the Central School of Speech and Drama and gained a BA in Honours in Acting from the Arden School in Manchester. Ayvianna, a warm welcome to you.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on
You're
here.
welcome.
I'm very
Okay,
grateful.
so let's kick off and tell me more about this film, your role in Baron Rye and the House on the Cliff, and what exactly is the film about?
So, Baron Rye and the House on the Cliff is a sort of Indian-British co-production, which I think is very exciting. So Sam Bhattacharjee is the director, and he's a British Indian gentleman. And the sort of main cast are Indian actors, and then there's a strong supporting cast of British actors. And what I love about that is that it kind of merges the two genres, and it's this fantastic fusion of British and Indian cinema. So it's a Western film. It's a paranormal detective story. Baron Rye is a ghost detective, and he's called to the house on the cliff where there have been hauntings and people keep mysteriously falling to their death off this cliff. And it turns out at the end, I don't want to give too much away, but I may have been pushing people to their death off the cliff. And Baron Rye is a detective who comes to solve these mysteries. What I love about it is that it feels very much like a Western film, but there are also these kind of Bollywood influences throughout. So it's very big and colorful, which I love. It's got a lot of spectacle, almost like a Baz Luhrmann spectacle. If you think of like Moulin Rouge, it's very colorful and big and spectacular. Yeah. And that, I think, is the kind of Bollywood influence coming in. So I think it's wonderful what they've managed to do. They've managed to kind of get the best of both worlds and make this colorful concoction, which is, it's a huge achievement. It's his debut film as a director as well. So he's done really, really well.
Right. I mean, it sounds interesting. I mean, Bollywood cinema is always, it's always been very colorful. I mean, and it's a very prestigious thing. And, there are actresses like Amy Jackson, who came from Liverpool, and she's over there doing stuff and made it very big. Yeah. And Anita Rani did a great program on BBC One about Bollywood, which was fantastic, a three-part thing. So she went into the whole essence of Bollywood. Okay, so moving on. What was the spark that led you to become an actress?
Oh, my goodness. I was a sort of weird, solitary, literary kind of child. I was very academic and sort of had glasses and sat in the library on my own at lunchtime. And I think I loved Shakespeare. And I used to sit and I watched all the kind of Kenneth Branagh adaptations of Shakespeare. I still love his Hamlet, his 1996 Hamlet. And he did a very good Iago in Othello as well. And I used to read them and watch, like kind of read along with it. So I would play the film and I would have the book open at the page and follow the line along. And I kind of almost self-taught myself how to perform Shakespeare, she says rather grandly. And I think that was what kind of first got me into it. And it was an escape from my normal life, I suppose. I could sit in the library at lunchtime and read Hamlet and be transported somewhere else. And that was what I first wanted to do as an actor. That was my first love, and my first job out of drama school was Shakespeare. I played Titania in Midsummer, in one of these touring productions where you're all in the back of a van driving around the UK. And the play they put on is nearly always A Midsummer Night's Dream. I think it's the easiest to sell. I think that's why that's always the one that's performed. But yeah, and then so I started doing that, and then I kind of fell into film. I had pictured myself as a Shakespearean stage actress, and then I somehow got a film role, and then that led to another film role, which led to another film role, and then before you know it, you're a film actress, and you sort of yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, I mean, the good thing is you can always go back to that. I mean, if I mean, that's the potential of theatre. If you look at Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I mean, she formed a company and she can do stuff, and, depending on what path your career takes, I mean, that's what you do. But the great thing is, people aspire to have film roles, and there's a lot of people out there. So it's kind of nice that in a way, it's really good that you've found this path where you've been doing role after role and stuff. And I suppose that's what everybody is doing. So let's talk a little bit about the lockdown hauntings. I mean, what was it like working with Howard Ford, and what challenges? Because I spoke to Howard about the film, and he explained it in a separate interview about how it all came about. But what challenges did you face during the making of that film?
Well, I mean, we filmed literally during a lockdown and a nationwide pandemic. So it was unlike your normal filming experience. So Howard is wonderfully resourceful and kind of finds ways to make things work. So he was literally driving around the country himself in his car and filming actors in their homes. So my home became the set. So Howard came and lived here in my house for 3 days. And we just filmed. And poor Howard was doing every job himself. So he was the cameraman, the sound recordist. There was a few shots where there had to be another figure kind of glimpsed in the background of the shot, or somewhere else in the frame. That was Howard as well, standing in, pretending to be the role that Tony Todd plays in the film. So it was a great experience. It was very kind of all hands on deck. The filming, it becomes quite an intimate experience when there's just the two of you and you're having to do literally every job yourself. I still remember Howard arriving here with these big suitcases, and he brought all manner of props and things, just anything he could find. It felt like, everything but the kitchen sink was coming out of this suitcase. Like, we might use this for something, or we might use that. Or, is this any good? So just kind of, so yeah, and we literally used, we were out in my garden shed. We were, just anything we could think of to try and make it work and make it happen. So it was real guerrilla filmmaking at its best.
Okay, so horror films involve makeup effects. I mean, I did see one of the clips in the show reel and stuff like that, which was you in a thing. So what would you say? I mean, when you look at, we know of Rick Baker, Rob Bottin, and those classic artists who defined the genre back in the 80s. I mean, who would you say, is there anybody you've worked with who really sort of is somebody we should watch out for, who is established? Who would you say are the best makeup artists in the field?
I mean, I worked with Paul Hyatt, whom you probably know. He started his career as a makeup artist, doing these amazing effects on people's faces. And from there, he kind of got into being a director, but it was the makeup that sort of led him into directing, if you like. And I worked with him on a film called The Convent, which had an amazing, again, the makeup. My character became a zombie, as you do. And when she was a zombie, she had no eyes. So it involved a lot of prosthetics, of course, and latex and things. And then my eyelids were painted green so that in post it could be sort of CGI'd to make it look like I had hollows where my eyeballs would be. So he's fantastic, and his whole team. There was a lovely lady called Jackie whom he works with quite closely, and she's another very gifted makeup artist. So everything they do, their whole team is just wonderful.
Great. Okay. Well, I know of Paul Hyatt. I think there's some names out there. He certainly is somebody who I've been aware of through things like Fright Fest. So that was good. So sort of an interesting one, but I'm sort of intrigued to know what you think about this. Is you've been described as the new Scream Queen, which is which is a title that was first bestowed on Jamie Lee Curtis when she appeared in the original Halloween in 1978. I mean, obviously actresses want to be, people want to vary their thing, but with something like that, when somebody sort of announces you as a scream queen or something like that, I mean, is it a title you appreciate? Is it something you can live with? Is it but do you first and foremost see yourself, well, that's not something I really want to think about. I just want to concentrate on good work and stuff.
May I ask who called me a scream queen?
No, it's just a label I read somewhere. It's just like but I was just interested to know what you.
No, I am very proud to be a scream queen. There's nothing wrong with working in horror. It's an amazing genre. I'm proud to do it. And my goodness, to even be in the same sentence as Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, I wish I had a quarter of her success. She's amazing. So very proud.
Well, that's a nice, good answer. So thank you for that. Anyway, I mean, it's, I grew up watching Halloween and The Fog and The Thing. These movies are my favorites of all time. So it's good. Yeah. So obviously we're talking about acting, but in terms of when you're finished behind the camera or whatever it is you're doing, I mean, what do you like doing when you're not working as an actor? Well, how do you relax and switch off?
I mean, my whole life is kind of infused with acting. It's sort of what I live and breathe. So what I do in my spare time is I'm an elected equity rep. I'm on the screen committee at Equity, which is our nationwide, covers the whole of the UK committee for everyone who works on the screen, whether that's TV, film, even if you do social media, video campaigns, anything like that. I work on that committee, and well, the whole committee, we're all trying to improve actors' work and conditions in our industry. And one thing that I'm passionate about is making equity more accessible for low-budget filmmakers. It used to be the case that Equity's definition of a low-budget film was any film with a budget of less than 3 million. And I felt that was a bit outdated. So a few years ago, I went to Equity and I campaigned to have a new agreement put in place, which would cater specifically for indie filmmakers working on real low budgets. And we have a new agreement now, which I'm very pleased to say I was involved in writing this. So any low budget indie filmmakers, you can now use this agreement. It's an equity agreement. It allows you to pay actors a fee which is more in keeping, in proportion with your actual budget, and still get all of our pay, working conditions, health and safety, insurance, all the kind of best practice stuff that Equity does.
Okay, so well, that's absolutely fantastic. And actually, that leads me into my next question, which is actually about the issue of diversity and gender. And obviously, with you working with Equity and stuff. Now, the big topics in the creative arts at the moment with Time's Up, Me Too, and Weinstein, all that kind of stuff. You've mentioned already just now about the fact that you've improved, you try to help low budget filmmaking do it. So in terms of, from your own perspective, I mean, obviously you must be in concert with a lot of actresses and a lot of people from varied backgrounds, BAME and everything else, or LGBTQ backgrounds and stuff like that who are working in the industry. Where do you feel progress has been made, and where do you feel your hopes lie for the future?
I mean, my main focus is women, because that's what I am and that's what I know about. I can't speak so much about the experience of being Black in the industry, because how would I know? I don't come up against racism myself. So, I mean, I would say that with women, I appear in a film at the moment called Hollow, and what's fantastic about that is that our leading actress is a lady in her 60s. And I think that that is so rare to have a mature woman in a leading role. And I think that that to me is progress. And I get really annoyed with the way that we represent women on screen. Women don't stop being interesting after the age of 25. You have a whole life ahead of you. You don't have to just be decorative or pretty. Another actress I know, a lady in her 60s, and is still very, dynamic and has a thriving career and busy and, an intelligent, resourceful woman. She was told by her agent to dye her hair gray because she would get more work. And that to me is that's the problem, because we're seeing women in these categories of you're either 25 and attractive, or you're somebody's mother, or once you're in your 60s, you need to be a granny, literally, with knitting and a cardigan in a rocking chair and grey hair, as if that's all there is to the female experience. That woman, that actress in her 60s, was still dynamic and thriving and leading the way at equity. And you know, we need to get out of these boxes with women.
Yeah.
We need to allow women to be more than these stereotypes. So I was very pleased to be involved with Hollow, because I felt that Jonathan, now director, really did that with his portrayal of that leading actress.
Yeah.
But it's slow work, and we need to do more.
Yeah. Well, just to say that Diana Rigg in her last role in Last Night in Seoul is a fine example of that. I mean, she still lights up the screen as much as she did in the Avengers and stuff. So obviously we've talked a bit about, thank you very much for your very insightful answer. That's fantastic. And we'll give people food for thought. I mean, obviously we're talking about the horror genre in your work as part of that. I mean, what are your favorite horror films of all time?
I watched something a few months ago called Little Joe, which was directed by Jessica Hausner and starred Ben Whishaw and Emma Beecham, I think. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen that one, but it sounds interesting. I mean, Will Shaw is a very good actor anyway.
Yeah, I always watch anything he's in, because it's kind of like a mark of quality if he's decided to do it. But I liked it because it was a kind of real slow burner. I like, I would say, psychological horror, where it's more about the building up of suspense rather than just, I'm not hugely into blood and gore. And Little Joe was very beautifully shot, and the cinematography is awesome, of course. And I like to support female directors. So, you know. Okay.
Well, obviously, let's talk a little bit about, you know, the future. I mean, what issues and themes are you keen to explore? Now, I'm not talking just about the horror genre, because obviously I would love to see you branch out and do other things. So what issues and themes are you keen to explore in the future work, and who would you like to work with in the future?
Oh my gosh. I like playing strong women. I would say that I like, I've gotten a bit tired of playing simpering love interests, and I like to play women with a bit more, a core of steel, and a bit more of just something a bit more interesting. So I'm making a film at the moment called The Final 45, which is set during the Second World War, and I'm playing a leader of the French Resistance, and I'm sort of out there fighting Nazis. And I'd rather do that than be a love interest. I'd rather be, you know, she's standing up for what she believes in, and she's strong and she's fearless. And yet again, I shouldn't give too much away, but again, I'm luring people to remote locations and then pushing them off things. So I've been slightly typecast as a sort of villainess.
Okay.
So that's exciting. Yeah, I'm not bound by genre. I'm interested in good writing, no matter what the genre.
Okay. Well, I have to say that I'm going to have to be careful if I ever bump into you in a local location. I think we'll be say, "Oh, is that Ayvianna? She be careful of her. You know, don't go near the cliff." So obviously, two final questions before we wrap up. I mean, obviously, you're doing very well at the moment with what you're doing, and you seem to be, you've got it together, and you're doing great roles, and you've done some good things. So what advice would you give people aspiring to act in the business? What is, what sort of advice would you give people?
Oh my gosh. See everything you can, go to the theatre as often as you can, read everything you can, and learn to hustle. I think you've got to hustle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nice answer. Okay. And finally, Ayvianna, what are you most proud of professionally and personally at present?
I'm proud of Hollow, because I think not only is it a horror film, it contains a very sensitive portrayal of this woman, this leading character, who is going through dementia. And I think the director handles that in a really sensitive, human way. And the whole film has been put together with real care and attention to detail. So that's a piece of work I'm really proud of. I'm also proud of Black Lake, which you mentioned in your intro, because that film dealt with sexual abuse of women in Pakistan, which is another issue that I'm glad that I was able to be involved in some way in a film which at least raises awareness of these terrible things that happen to women.
Okay. Ayvianna, I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. I mean, you're doing so much. I mean, I'm really pleased that we've had this time today. Thank you so much for your time and insight today. Okay, generally, just to let you know, if you want to read more exciting news and reviews and actually see the interview which I did online with Ayvianna, you can go to filmandtvnow.com. By all means, sort of check in with Ayvianna at Equity, and if she can help you with the whole business about the low budget thing, which she showed us earlier on, which is good. Support independent cinema, support filmmakers and independent cinemas and retro. Do go out there and sort of get involved and hustle if you're an actor. If you're a filmmaker trying to get started, get started. It's what it's all about. And we thank you very much indeed. And thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you.